My husband, 28 male, told me, 26 female, that he wished my C-section would go wrong during an argument. My husband and I got into an argument tonight. He wanted to watch a new show during supper, and I wasn't too big of a fan of it because I knew it had violence in it. But we started watching it anyways after I finally caved in. Our son is 1.5 years and was eating in his high chair, and the show started getting very violent. So I asked my husband to turn it off, and he refused. I told him it's not good for our son to watch this type of stuff, and he still refused to turn it off. A guy in the show got slammed against a wall, and our son said, "Uh-oh." So after my husband still refused to turn it off, I grabbed our son out of the high chair and left the room. My husband paused the show and started cleaning up the mess from the high chair and said I was being ridiculous. I showed him an article about how watching violence is not good for a child's development, even if they can't understand what they're seeing. He called me a bitch. I told him, quote, "Please don't call me a bitch. I'm not being a bitch. I'm being a parent. Stop letting your pride get in the way of doing what's right for our son." And then he called me a cunt and threw the drain plug at me. I turned and it grazed my back. I stared at him in disbelief and he said, quote, "I hope your C-section goes bad. I hate you. I'm currently pregnant with our second child." I'm in such disbelief right now. I don't even know how to process what just happened or what to do. Is this something that can be fixed or forgiven?
I found out that my girlfriend has been sleeping with her boss. My head has been spinning since last night and I don't really know what my next moves are. Some background info. My girlfriend and I have been together for 2 years. No kids, but we moved into a new place in October and signed a 1-year lease. I'm 30 and she's 28. About a year ago, she started working at this new job that she absolutely loves. It pays good and she's made some new friends there. In December, during their office Christmas party, I got to meet her boss for the first time, and it was very obvious to me and probably anyone with eyes he's attracted to her. It made me uncomfortable, but she didn't give him any more attention than she did anyone else, so I didn't think anything more about it. Last month, she got a raise, a significant one that even she was surprised about. She said she spoke to her boss and he said it's for her performance. She accepted that answer. I didn't. I told her he's obviously attracted to her and that's why she got this raise. She got angry and accused me of saying she doesn't work hard. We had a huge fight about it and I ended up spending the night on the couch. We didn't speak for 2 days and I ended up apologizing but asked her to just watch out for this guy. On Friday, we had gone to a friend's house for drinks and dinner and my girlfriend kept checking her phone and whispering with one of her girlfriends. I got a sinking feeling but tried to ignore it because I didn't want to cause a scene in front of our friends. On the way home, I asked her who kept texting her all night and she said a friend from work. And when I asked who, she said, "Why does that matter?" and got really defensive, so again, I dropped it. Saturday morning while she was still sleeping, I decided to go through her phone and I found hundreds of text messages between her and her boss. Very inappropriate text messages and pictures. Honestly, I wanted to throw up. I took a couple of screenshots and looked at the conversations with the friend from the party who knows this has been going on and was just gutted. She told her friend he's the best she's ever been with. They talked about how the initial raise was to get her interest and he's been giving her bonuses. And apparently most, if not everyone at the office knows about them sleeping together. I took screenshots of everything and deleted the proof that I sent them to myself. I haven't confronted her about anything yet. I can't even look at her right now. I know she knows something is wrong, but she isn't talking to me either. I know the only logical answer is to break up with her, but I have a lease that I can't afford on my own. I don't know what to do. I'm so incredibly disgusted and heartbroken. I'm angry at her and myself. I feel like I saw all the red flags that this was happening and ignored every one of them. So
I caught my husband slipping me birth control after 6 months of trying to get pregnant. Huzzy and I have been married for 3 years. As newlyweds, we made the decision to not have kids early on. We wanted to enjoy each other, travel, and really focus on our careers. And thankfully, we've been able to do that. We both have great jobs. We live in a wonderful city, and we were even able to buy our own apartment in one of the best high-rises where we live. We even take care of our families. The point is, our lives are pretty good. About 8 months ago, I brought up the conversation because I thought that it was time. Finally, after 2 months, we decided that we would just start trying. And then ensued 6 months of me trying to get pregnant. But I've struggled so much. I keep track of my temperature, my cycles. I am so on top of everything. I know exactly when we need to do it. And we had been. At times, we would both get off of work and meet each other somewhere random and just do it. Just because it was the perfect time. But nothing was working. Finally, after 6 months, I thought, you know what? I should go to the doctor. And when I told my husband this, he freaked out. He yelled at me, number one, which he never does. And he forbade me from going to the doctor. I asked him why. After all, we'd been trying for so long to get pregnant and nothing was working. That's when he said that it was probably just the stress and that all I needed to do was calm down. And you know what I did? I believed him. I didn't go to the doctor. But then he started acting really suspicious. Anytime that I would go into the kitchen, he would just try to rush whatever he was doing. And he even started insisting that he would wash the dishes and do all the cooking. He said that this was probably going to help me out with my stress. But in reality, cooking and cleaning is something I actually love. This included making me my daily smoothie. You see, I would always prep my smoothies in the freezer. I would just pop out a bag and put it in the blender. So one night I wake up and it's 3 in the morning and he's making some noise in the kitchen. When I walk out into the kitchen, as soon as he sees me, he drops something onto the floor. I run over to pick it up and guess what it is? It's birth control. And he was putting it in my smoothie prep. That's when he lied and said they were anxiety pills. And I saw the pills on the floor that he dropped. I grabbed them and knew exactly what they were. This man decides to gaslight me and say that they're anxiety pills, when literally the label says birth control. And then very calmly, I asked him to just explain to me why he was giving me birth control. But again, he denied it. So I grabbed a knife and started stabbing the TV. It's his favorite thing in the world. And when I was about to stab his laptop, he finally broke down and told me. That's when he confesses that he's in love with someone else and that he's been seeing her for a year. And that he just didn't have the heart to tell me that he didn't want to have kids with me because he's in love with her. Grabbed his phone and asked him to call her. And he did. And when she answers the phone, I ask her if he knows that he's married and she said no. And she broke up with him right then and there. That's when he started begging me for forgiveness, but I kicked him out anyway. I called the cops and they said that I can't do anything about this. I did file for divorce and I left the apartment. His mistress told me that he's still begging to get back with her, but she won't. Her and I actually met up for coffee and we're friends now. So good riddance to him.
My friend had an intimate relationship with his mother, and I would like to talk about this because he told me I could talk about it if he ever passed away. And this morning I woke up to news that he had crossed over to the next life. So let's talk about this. My friend, I went over to his house. He lived in Knockemstiff, Ohio. Knockemstiff, Ohio doesn't have that big of a population, so anybody that's watching this in Knockemstiff, you'll know who it is. So afterwards, I discover, after arriving at his household, I see that he gives his mom a kiss on her cheek. And I say, oh, that's pretty okay, all right. Most people give their mom a kiss on the cheek. That's pretty cool. Then his mom gives him a kiss on the lips. That confused me a little bit, but, you know, I've seen crazier things. I've been to France before. I know what's going on. So, after this whole debacle happens, he says, hey, man, we've known each other for quite some time. That's not true. I've known him for a month. It's not been quite some time, but men have very intimate connections with people they've known for a short amount of time. Ask any woman on the planet. Now, he said, me and my mom would be getting down and dirty. I'm thinking he's talking about cooking, maybe even hiking, maybe even gardening, something of that variety. He said, nah, I just need somebody to tell you somebody just because it feels like taboo. Me and my mom, we're very connected. I said, connected? Okay, like Bluetooth? Okay, we connected. Siri. He said, no. I said, He said, we're connected, like, I'm with her. After my dad passed, she didn't have a man. I said, oh, hold up a second. Whoa, hold up a second. Whoa. He's telling me some nonsense. He's telling me something that's only known for Alabama. We're in Ohio. I'm really confused. He says, yeah, my dad passed away, and I didn't want my mom to be lonely. I didn't trust no men, so I took up the mantle. I said, oh, okay. Well, you know, I didn't know what to say. I was speechless for the first time in quite some time. For first time maybe in my life, I was looking for words to say because I had never encountered this situation before. I had never seen anybody that was desperately in an intimate relationship with their own person that they came from, the literal womb they came back from. He really had a craving to go back home because he was nostalgic for something. He was someplace for 9 months. And that messed me up a little bit. And then he said something that really shook me to my actual core. He said, is it really that wrong to want your mom to be loved by somebody that you know could treat her right? I said, that is I don't know what to tell you, man. That's a sentence. And his mom came in. I thought he was playing her. I thought he was pulling some joke on me. His mom, I walked up to her, very lovely lady. I said, hey, you know what I'm saying? Your son is making up crazy allegations and rumors about you two doing things, you know, in the privacy of your own house. And she said, we are. I said, oh, shout out to One Piece. We are? That's crazy. I was sick to my stomach. I threw up. And I didn't even sleep in the same household. I got a motel when I was invited to spend the night. I was a little bit upset. And he said, hey, could you please not tell anybody about this? I said, not tell anybody about it. I was in the middle of making a Facebook post. I was about to tell the world, I was about to make a YouTube I was about to pay an editor to hire somebody to get this story out to the public, to the masses. And he said, just do it after I'm gone. I said, after you're gone? He said, tell people after I'm gone because I can't have this be out. I got too many close personal friends. I got too many people that know me. I said, why would you tell me? He said, because I feel like you're easy to talk to. I said, oh, me? Easy to talk to. That's fair, that's valid. So, I've held on to this secret for 4 years. 4 years I've been holding on to this in my entire soul and my body. Now you guys know. Now my entire audience knows. Now anybody who wants to share this video knows. Person's gone now. Mom is gone, he's gone. Doesn't matter to me at this point. That's scary. You're probably wondering, well, how did he pass away? Gun violence? I'm not gonna lie to anybody. Gun violence. That's not gonna sugarcoat it. He's walking down the street. Boom! Oh my goodness! He got acme. He got hit by an anvil going walking across the street. That was a very comical death. God really plays the craziest jokes on people. I'm not even religious, and God plays jokes. That was just psychotic. I'm not gonna lie to anybody.
If you didn't get invited, don't show up. Get ready with me while I tell you the time I had to confront and kick out an old friend from my house. We're gonna call this old friend Alyssa. We stopped now, but almost every year for my brother's and I's birthday, we would always have a party with Grupo and we would invite a lot of friends and family. That year, very last minute, one of my brothers decided that he wanted to have a party. Since it wasn't my party, my brother was asking me and my other brother who it is that we are inviting. That way we have like count for food, beverages, grupo, and all of that. My brother kindly asked that we only invite people who are not drama, because we've had a lot of parties at my parents' house where there always ends up being drama, especially if there's alcohol involved or if there's like certain people who don't like each other attending the same event. So I nearly almost forgot to apply some concealer. What the heck? At this point, my older brother starts to read the little roster that he made for the people that he invited, and the moment he named one specific guy, I was like, oh, I'm not inviting this girl. Obviously at this girl we named her Alyssa. The only reason I mentioned that if this one guy friend is getting invited, we definitely shouldn't invite Alyssa, because Alyssa and this guy have history, they're exes. As her friend, I already know how she can be, especially with alcohol, so I just much rather avoid any drama or any potential fights and arguments, especially because this is my brother's birthday party, not mine. So now it's the day of the party that my brothers and I have been planning for a couple of weeks now. We are, I want to say like 2 or 3 hours into the party, and someone comes up to me, I don't remember who it was, but someone comes up to me and says, hey, did you invite Alyssa and her cousins? And I was like, no, we basically made sure that if we were inviting her ex, that she wasn't gonna show up. Or if I were to invite her, then we would make sure her ex wouldn't be there. The person who basically came to tell me if I had invited the girls responds back to me and says, the only reason I'm asking is because they're here. And I was like, what? Who invited them? And they were like, well, apparently not you, apparently not your brothers, and apparently not your parents. And I was like, so if they didn't get invited, why are they here? Like, I ended up getting up from the table and I started to walk in their direction, and they still hadn't sat down. They were basically on the side of the house, which is where the entrance for the party was. I went up to them, I said hi, and honestly I just kept my cool. Like, I wasn't upset. It was just more the fact that I had to respect my brother's decision, and my brother wanted to invite his guy friend because obviously it's his birthday. The thing here, guys, is if she knew how to put whatever they had going on to the side, there would definitely be no issue if they both were at the party. So at this point, her, I, and whoever she was here with, I think it was like her cousin and another girl, I basically, in telling them, I'm like, hey, I don't mean to be a bitch, but you didn't get invited. I know I could have said it in a nicer way now looking back at it, but one thing about me is I'm just gonna keep it 100 with you, and if you didn't get invited because other people didn't want you to, then I'm just gonna let you know. I'm not gonna sugarcoat anything. Like, it is what it is. Alyssa responds back to me and she says, well, girl, technically we did get invited. And I was like, oh, okay, by who? She says, we got invited by one of your brother's friend's girlfriend. And I looked at her and I was like, she's not the owner of the house. She's technically a guest also. I respond back and I was like, look, I'm not trying to make this a big deal. You guys didn't get invited. And my dad tries to come over here to like ease the conversation. And there was nothing going on between her and I. But right away they were like, oh, like they said my dad's name, and I just tried to get them away from my dad because my dad is a very sweet person, and I know that they're just gonna try to butter him up and, you know, take advantage of him, and I was not up for it. Like, dude, obey my brothers and I's rules. Simple. Alyssa then says, well, technically, we just came to pick her up because we're going to another party. And I was like, oh, well, that's fine. You can go and wait for her outside. And she was like, why can't we just stay in here? And I was like, you guys didn't get invited. I was like, these are not my rules. I am just obeying the rules. I was like, if it was for me, you guys can go and sit at a table, but because these are my brother's rules, I'm going to listen to him. I was like, and if you guys can't respect that, I was like, then you guys just like need to leave. They finally decide to walk away, and they're calling me all of these names. And keep in mind, I'm keeping it cool because I still consider you my friend. It just so happened that it wasn't my party, and my brother wanted to invite this guy, and he just didn't want you to be there. That's it. I end up sitting back down at the table, and a couple minutes later, one of my friends comes up to me and goes, look at this tweet. I don't remember exactly the words that the tweet says, but it was something along the lines of, some people are rude, they're funny, they're fake. And I was like, oh my god, like, you really had to go on social media and put this out there. Like, just be a fucking adult about it and accept the fact that you didn't get invited. What makes all of this funny is, if you scroll down a couple more tweets, she literally tweeted a couple days ago saying, if you didn't get invited to a party, do not invite yourself. And I'm like, bro, just take your own advice. They ended up cutting me off. I didn't even care to fight for the friendship because it was so petty and not worth it.
Oh, I literally forgot to invite my closest friends to my wedding. Okay, for starters, I was pretty much like barely involved in the planning of my wedding because my older sister just handled it all. She's an angel. Shout out to Sada. And I was finishing up my last semester of dental school, like getting ready for graduation. So I literally didn't have time to plan a wedding. So my sister literally did everything. I was in a whole other state. I was in Pennsylvania finishing up my last year of dental school. I was never really the person who like dreamed of a beautiful wedding and planning my wedding. Like, I wasn't really into the whole thing. I just wanted to do it to get married and live with my man. Plus, we were students and we were on a budget. Anyways, that's a story for another day. So I had a bridal shower and I literally invited all my close friends. It's not a lot. I don't have a lot of friends. To my bridal shower, and at the shower I was telling them, yeah, we're gonna have like a small wedding, but you guys are obviously invited. So I verbally told them like, hey, you're invited to the wedding, okay? Also, these are my closest friends, so I kind of just assumed that they knew they were invited. But my family was in charge of sending out the invitations, like my sister, so I never physically sent them out. I'm using NARS. Also, if you know me, you know that sometimes I could be like an airhead and just forget stuff, like I'm very forgetful. So pretty much I never sent out the invitations. So my friends never got to know when was the wedding, like what time, what date, what location. And I still low-key blame them for this, but not any single one of them texted me and was like, hey, when's the wedding so we can come? Because they knew it was in that month. So fast forward to the wedding, we already entered and I'm looking around to see in the crowd like who I know, where my friends are. And I'm literally asking my sister like, where's Yasmin? Where's Reem? Where's this? Where's this? I'm like asking for my friends. To be honest, I don't have a lot of friends, so I think it was like 3 of them. Mind you, I did have a very small wedding. We had to limit the guests. It was like a COVID wedding. So I literally asked my sister, I'm like, go make rounds and like try to find my friends. An hour into the wedding and they're like, no, they're still not here. And I'm like, how could they not show up to my wedding? I got so mad. I literally checked my Instagram stories and I see that my friend Yasmin posted she was in a coffee shop. And I was like, are you kidding me? I didn't let it ruin my night, but the next day I texted them and I was like, how could you guys skip my wedding? Acting like mad, like I put ... And they literally respond like, you didn't invite us ... And that's the moment I realized I felt so dumb. And the reason that they didn't text me to be like, hey, when's your wedding, is because I had told them it was a small wedding. So they thought they weren't invited. That's so sad. My wedding was a hot mess.
My childhood sweetheart turned up at my door 14 years later. Story time. So I had this boyfriend who's my first boyfriend called Steve. We got together when we were 14 years old. In total, we were together for 18 months. But you know, at that age, you just think everything's gonna last a lifetime. It was so undeniable, even looking back, that we loved each other. Anyway, even though we were really, really young, we ended up, you know, he didn't have a clue, right? And I ended up getting pregnant. And Looking back at the time, I remember being absolutely over the moon. I was so excited. I didn't even think about like the whole of my future completely changing. At this point, I was still in school and I hadn't even sat my GCSEs. I had so much to learn from every single aspect of my life. I actually made the decision to not keep the baby. This was a decision that I have regretted my whole life. I think about it every day as an adult. And after all of this, we were maybe about 15. This is when Steve decided to go and cheat on me with not one, not two, but 3 other girls from our school. Literally weeks after the most traumatic event of my life. And that was it. That was the end. We split up and we never spoke again. No contact after the day we broke up, and we both continued on. We have both changed so much. Up to 14 years later. Over the years, I never forgot about Steve. I just never really thought about him. Cut to 14 years later, I now have 2 boys and I'm sat at my mum's house just having a little catch up with her. We hear a little knock at the door. Safe to say we were both absolutely baffled as to who it could be because we weren't expecting anyone. It was like middle of the afternoon. So I'm like, listen mum, I'll go open it. I'll go see what the situation is. I open the door and stood in front of me is this big bearded man, most beautiful eyes, the most beautiful face I had honestly seen in the past 14 years. His first words to me were, "You don't remember me, do you?" I was in so much shock. I put my head in my hands, and when I put my head in my hands, I just got this flashback to what he looked like when we were 14 and 15. I looked up and I was just like, is it you, Steve? He had known where to come because it was the house that I lived at when we were together all those years ago. My mum had never ever moved. Fast forward another 18 months, we now live together. I am the happiest I have been since I was 14 years old. Happiness is out there. Sometimes it even comes knocking at your door. I love love, and this story is my favourite story ever. I wish you guys the lifetime of happiness. I'm so glad that you found each other again. I hope he cares for you. I hope he looks after you. I hope he looks after your children as well. Please let me know if there are any other updates. Please let me know if you get married.
If I'm being honest, I fucking love a breakup. Obviously not in the moment, like nobody likes getting their fucking heart broken, but the aftermath of a breakup is probably one of my favorite things. I've always just viewed it as a new start. Like it's just quite literally a new chapter of your life. You get to be the one who dictates what goes on. This is like my little breakup survival guide, and it's for, and I always get the question like, I didn't even date him, but like I'm still sad about it. It's like, I don't give a fuck if it was a situationship, what you hooked up a couple times. This is for anyone who is like sad about somebody that was in their life, no longer is. Number one thing I do, I feel every single fucking emotion, and I allow myself to feel every emotion. I don't judge myself for it either. If I need to cry on the fucking floor and have a full mental breakdown about it, I'm not going to judge myself for doing that. I also love to write things down, so I like to journal whatever I'm feeling or whatever I'm thinking. I also like to fucking talk my ass off, so I love getting into therapy, being like, this is what the fuck I'm feeling. I'm never gonna judge myself for how I feel, because if I'm having these strong feelings and these strong emotions, it just means that I allowed myself to be open and vulnerable. And I think that's something to fucking celebrate, that you were able to open your heart to somebody and you were able to open yourself up to somebody. That's not really fucking easy. And like the fact that you're able to do that, I think should be celebrated. And it's like, I'm not gonna judge myself for the way I'm feeling after the breakup and like how much I'm reacting and how emotional I am to it, because it's like, that just meant I allowed myself to love and that I allowed myself for somebody to come in. Next thing I do, I take a step back and I realize how much energy I was putting into that person, because obviously when you're in love with someone or you're seeing someone or you like somebody, you're putting a lot of energy into that person. And I look at the aspects of my life where I want that energy to go now. So the energy I was putting into this motherfucker I was with, I now want to put into like my work, or I want to put into like my fitness goals, or I want to put into my fucking money, my bag, bitch. Like looking at my life and like what aspects I want to improve, or like what new things I want to do. If that's like create a fucking fitness goal, say I want to run a marathon, like a new goal and a dream to like run a fucking marathon. Also, all these things come with time. I'm not saying rolling out of bed the next day after you got broken up with, like getting your ass ready to run a marathon. Like, no, that's not it. But looking at things that you want to do and things that you can do for yourself and will improve every aspect of your life. So no contact is huge for me. Like I am not going to be in contact with the person that I am trying to get over, because like, for me, that won't happen. I know myself well enough that like if I'm still in contact with that motherfucker, I still love that man. I still love that man. I take no contact pretty fucking seriously. And like some ways that have helped me get through no contact is like every time I've wanted to like text my ex, I'll like text Sissy instead, or I'll text my best friend instead, and I'll tell them exactly what I want to say, and we kind of just sit there and break down why I even want to do that or anything like that. Like, what is that really going to bring it? Let's say I do it. What is going to happen after I do that? Like, what is that going to do to me? So call me fucking crazy, but like, I try and stay away from alcohol during the no contact, which makes me sound like crazy. I don't like to drink to begin with, but like, I will try and stay away from like going hard and like drinking so much for a couple of reasons. During a breakup, I just think you're at one of the lowest points of your life, and I just don't really like coping with alcohol because I don't ever want that. I have an addictive personality. I don't ever want that to be like something I do. I also think it's so much easier to drunk text your ex than it is to like sober text your ex. And it's like, if I'm taking no contact seriously, maybe I shouldn't be drinking right now. Okay. Maybe I shouldn't be drinking. And I also really just want to feel the feelings when I'm going through a breakup. I want to feel every single fucking thing, because once I feel it, I can heal from it and I will be good. Also huge on perspective and mindset. And I feel that with every point of your life, or like whatever you're dealing with, the way that you view it really matters. The breakup, I like to look at it less as like a loss, like, oh my God, I lost this person. And instead I gained so many great memories with this person. But also, if I can love that person so hard and I can do the things I did with that person, like the person that's actually meant for me is going to be fucking amazing. My friends would always tell me, like, you're one relationship away from the person that like you're meant to be with. You're one relationship away from it. And I was like, you're so right. Like, the person that's meant for me is going to be even better than the person that was in front of me. So I just view it as like, if I had such an amazing time with the person that I just broke up with, imagine the time I'm gonna have with the person that's meant for me. Like, the person that I'm meant to spend the rest of my life with, that's gonna be fucking amazing, because even the relationship I just had was fucking amazing. I also think time is everything, where it's like, don't put yourself on a timeline to heal. Like, it takes time, or maybe you're gonna heal quicker than somebody else would. You know what I mean? So it's like, don't judge yourself for how long something takes. If you're like, it's a year and I still can't stop thinking about him, it's like, okay, well then take a step back. If that's okay, there's no rush into completely healing yourself, or there's like, healing is linear, you know what I mean? And it's like, there's no rush to any of this. So it's like, take your time and you'll be okay. Like, don't even fucking worry about it. That's just my little heartbreak survival guide for you guys. Anyone struggling, my bitches that are going through a heartbreak, just know I've been there. Literally so many people have been there too, and you're gonna be okay. And I love you, and you're gonna be okay.
It's come to my attention that I've been involved in 3 separate romantic relationships that I didn't know anything about. This is truly insane, so buckle up. Now, this story starts back in 2023, and there was this man, we'll call him Clyde, and he would always comment on my Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, just very positive things. Like, he was a big fan of my music, and I didn't really think anything of it. Clyde eventually started to send me personal direct messages, and I would just say thank you and go about my day. Then one day, my mother gets a message from Clyde, and he is basically telling her that me and him are together. You know, I'm cheating on my husband with him, and she has to help him talk me into divorcing him so we can be together. Obviously, my mom's like, what the fuck? So she screenshots it, sends it to me. We have a good little laugh. But it doesn't end there. I wish it did. Later that day, my husband gets a message from this guy saying, me and your wife are together. You have to leave her. She loves me and not you. Obviously, screenshots it. We have a good laugh. But it don't end there either. This is the point where it started getting really weird. He reached out to my management and was telling my management the same shit. And so obviously I'm like, this man is seriously delulu, like out of his mind. So at this point in time, we all just thought that Clyde was crazy, and we kind of wrote it off. A week later, we get an email to my booking agency. Clyde sent like a 2-page email to my booking agency because he had flown from the other side of the world to Texas, where I was supposed to pick him up. And at this point, we know something's up. So my booking agency responds to him because it's alarming. And they're like, I'm sorry, like, Taylor doesn't know anything about this. Can you provide some context? And that is when we figure everything out. When he emailed them back, he let them know that he had been talking to me for months. He had been sending me money. We were in love, and he was planning to come to the United States to start our life together. He left his wife and kids and emptied his bank account. At this point, we were all very confused because obviously I have not been talking to this man. I have not gotten any money. I wish. So we just decided, you know, that it was probably a scammer. And then he sent screenshots of the messages between me and him. And it was definitely a horrible scammer. Obviously, I felt horrible for this poor man who had literally uprooted his life to come to a false reality. But, you know, most people that get scammed, they'd be like, that sucks, man, I got. Sorry about that. You know, I'm sorry too. But he did not stop. Instead, what he does is continue to believe it's really me and flies to Nashville from Texas. Go to part 2.